G'day folks, it's DIY Guy 123 here, bringing you another do-it-yourself video. So, removing tile and cleaning up the mortar underneath is by far the worst part of this job. I use a 1-inch bit to break the tile up, and then I use a 3-inch bit to clean the mortar off. It's loud and dusty, and would be very difficult to do without an electric hammer. So obviously this is not at all what we want to find. We've got some rot damage right around here. There are 2 layers of plywood though. There's the subfloor, which may not be too bad, and then there's the underlay plywood, the 1/4 inch that they put down before they install ceramic. So I'm gonna be cutting that out. I'll replace the underlay, but maybe the subfloor will get lucky and it'll be okay. We'll see. Okay, so now that I've accepted my fate here, which is taking up the subfloor and replacing the rot that's around there. Now that I've accepted that, I used a saw to cut along there. You want to take care when you're going around pipes. Got the boards cut out of here. I used a circular saw to go along in this direction. I actually overlapped the top of a joist on purpose. I didn't cut down through it, I just cut to it. And then my new piece is going to rest on this. I'll attach 2x4s under there and under here and under there, and set the new piece on there of subfloor, and then the piece of underlay will extend past the subfloor and overlap onto the existing subfloor to just, you don't want to have overlapping joints. This flange was never really put in right when the house was built. It was fine if there was subfloor put down and then cushion floor on top of that was super thin, but there was subfloor put down, then underlay, then mortar, then ceramic tile, then the toilet. And what happened was this flange was about 1/3 of an inch almost too low. And that meant that when the toilet went down, it didn't really bite under the wax spring really well, and there was a leak and there was some damage there. Now, about 5 years ago, the reason why I found this problem is because it leaked, the toilet leaked when it flushed down into the bedroom below. We took the toilet off, we built up the flange by using another flange. We put a wax ring down, the new flange, and then another wax ring in the toilet on top of that. And that stopped the leak, and the bedroom stopped having problems in its ceiling. But I never did address this rot because I didn't want to deal with the ceramic tile. I mean, that's a pretty big deal to change the floor. But since we're changing the floor, now's the time to fix the rot, take it up out of there, and I'll set the flange height to the proper height. So to do that, I'm going to cut off the old ABS pipe right there. There's not really enough room between here and here to cut this off and put a coupler and then put a new ABS flange on top of it. So yeah, I'm going to cut this off. I'll carve out this piece of ABS pipe from this fitting, and then we'll put a new pipe and a new flange in at the right height. So to get this out, I'm going to use a reciprocating saw, and just like that, and I'll be cutting that off, and then I'll come back at you. Like this. And your pipe in place, and then put your flange on top of the pipe and bring over a piece of underlay and a piece of tile, set them like this and put the flange on the top and push your flange down. And if there's any gap between your tile and there, you know that's how much you need to cut your pipe down. Now, as always, when you're dealing with piping like this, make sure there aren't any burrs on the inside. And then when you put your subfloor down, leave this flange off until you have your subfloor, your underlay back in place, and your tile on, and then you can put your flange back on and push it all the way down so that this surface of the flange is touching the top of the tile. So that's how you set the height properly on these things. And if the person who built this house had done this properly in the beginning, I wouldn't have had rot problems. This is a new piece of 3/4 inch plywood, and then I had to build some supports on either side. And I've got those with construction adhesive and then screwed in here and here. So there's a good ledge all the way around for that to sit on. Ideally, you'd span 2 joists. And but in my case, I had to cut out further due to the rot. One other tip I'll give you here. So since I've had leakage issues in this area before, you know, once bitten, twice shy. So I'm always kind of looking for a way to inspect things after the whole job is done. So my subfloor is going to go in here. But I've cut out a piece here, and actually if I bring this little pipe cover up off the floor, there's quite an area here, right? And so that area is right in this area, and you'll see that there's actually a cutout here. A large cutout was there in the joist for the pipe to go through. It was way bigger than it needed to be, but it's looking right on top of the area where there was water before. So after I assemble this all, the only thing I'm gonna do is not tile tight up to this pipe, and I'll be able to put a scope down there and look, and it'll be hidden when I put that down on top of the tile. Nobody will know the hole is there, and it'll be helpful for me to inspect things later. When it comes to prepping the subfloor, there's really no substitute for just lots of nails every 4 inches in the perimeter, in the center of the sheets, and then every 2 inches around the edge. And now when I put the flange on, it's going to press down until the flange is touching the tile. Okay, so here we are. We have the ceramic tile all in place and the holes are drilled. Now this particular toilet flange, when it sits down, you need to have this rotates, of course, so you're going to glue it on and then after adjust this. But before I did that, I wanted to pre-drill the holes in the ceramic tile. And so the way you do that is you line up these bolts right here. This part of that opening right here where the bolt ends up, the bolt drops down and then slides into this groove. You want to put that part right there and this part right there equal distances away from the wall. So you measure that out, set this, and then mark your holes. Drilling through the tile is a horrible job if you don't have the right stuff. You can drill through them with carbide tip concrete drills like this, but it takes a long time. You definitely do not want to use a hammer drill, or if you use a hammer drill, don't put it in hammer mode. And you drill it like medium speed, and every 10 seconds, take the bit out and dip it in a little glass of water to cool it down, and bring it back into the hole and drip a few drips of water into the hole, dip it again and bring another few drips of water into the hole, and then go at it drilling it again for another 10 seconds. I kid you not, drilling these 6 holes took probably an hour. There's another type of drill that's much better. It's a carbide, or no, it's a, I'll put a link to it in the description anyway. And I didn't use them for this project, but I wish I had, because I'm telling you, it's just really awful to drill with the carbide bit. You don't want to get it inside the pipe if you can help it. We're gonna go around the outside. And I'm probably wasting a lot, but I don't care. I want it to be really fully covered. You hear the dog. You don't have another chance to do it later. So we're putting it on all the way and turning. And now that is set as far down as it's gonna go. 12 1/4 is there. Yeah. And you definitely want an impact gun to avoid stripping the heads of these screws. They cost about $2 a piece. Broken off. I should have drilled that one. Okay, so I just drove the drill down through there on a slight angle and drilled out a hole, no problem, and put an RDOX covered screw in there. Not as good as the brass screws, but 5 out of 6 are brass, and we've got one that's not. Good luck if you do it yourself projects.